Yo, 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 you already know what time it is. Welcome back to another episode of Thinker versus Speaker, where I, Marissa the Thinker, sit down with different guests and we talk about all things, anything, everything, life, love, relationships, spirituality, literally whatever we want to talk about. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely make sure you check out the show. We got a lot in store for you today. Now, with that being said, because we talk about any and everything, you know what I'm saying? There's no telling what we talk about beforehand. So if you're easily triggered and we say something you don't necessarily like, do what you got to do. We respect it. We understand it. But hopefully you come back next week because we do talk about any and everything. So, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully we see y'all next time. But on that note, we're going to hop straight into it. We got a special guest today, new to the show. I'm super excited to get into it. We have the first poet of Thinker versus Speaker history. We got Miss
Yes,
Rachel Jenkins. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I am excited. This is my first episode since I took a vacation. I'm excited to get back into it.
I'm
Um
excited to be on here.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Now let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself if you don't mind. Let's just hop straight into it. Give us a quick little background about who you are.
Gotcha. Okay. So I started writing when I was about 7 or 8. And how that got started is in one of my classes, one of my teachers had someone come in and do poetry. And for me, I grew up in a household where, you don't really talk about feelings. That wasn't really a big thing. You don't let people see you weak. You don't let people see you sad. You don't cry in front of people. And so seeing her express herself in a way that was poetic and where it just was so free flowing. I just literally was like in awe at that very moment. At the end, she gifted everybody a notebook and a pen, and I went home and just went crazy. Like I filled up that notebook the same day because I remember sitting in my seat and just thinking, like, man, I want to be like her. So I have been writing off and on since that age. However, I have only been consistently performing for a little bit over a year. So I'm just really excited to see where this journey is going to take me.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Man, I'm so excited to dig into your story now. To hear that too, because it's just like for me, um see, I write, but I don't necessarily do poetry. Like I remember when I was little, I used to write, and I didn't even remember this actually, but I used to write. I used to go in my closet. Actually, that was the only way I knew how to express my feelings in hindsight. Like I just take my little notebook and I go in my closet and I say all the things that I couldn't say, right? And I just go.
Yeah, because it's a safe space. You don't have to be judged. You don't have to, worry about anybody like throwing it in your face later. Like those notebooks are safe places.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so much that you can just get out and express. And I remember I had stopped doing it for such a long time. And then once I started going back to therapy, my therapist was like, journal. And I was just like, my thoughts are in my head. And she was like, no, actually journal.
Yeah.
Like actually like write them out. And then I realized just how therapeutic writing can be and getting those feelings out and being able to express it. So I can't imagine like, you know, being from a young age, just being able to write. Like, do you remember any of the things that were in like your first like journal, if you don't mind me asking? Like,
I have no clue. And it's crazy because like after that, like our teacher started having it where we would have like journal sessions and we would just like turn them into her. And so every now and then there would be ones we that she really liked and she would like tear them out of our notebooks and just keep them. And so my mom always jokes with me all the time of being like, yo, you're really doing your poetry thing. Like, what if your teacher published some of your stuff you wrote when you were younger? I'm like, I would never know because I don't remember what I said.
yeah,
But yeah, I have no clue.
yeah. All right, cool. So what made you transition from just like writing to actually performing?
So I think my very first time performing was in like high school. But recently I decided to keep going just because I started getting connected with people that I felt like were like-minded, that weren't judgmental. You know, that safe space we were just talking about of how, you can write it in a notebook, you leave it there, you feel better, but you don't have to deal with, feeling judged or anything like that. I started meeting people where they just were really welcoming and I just felt really embraced, and it wasn't a situation where it felt competitive. And I think a lot of times when people do like minded things, more oftentimes than not, there's this like either silent or loud sense of competitiveness where everybody just really embraced me when I came on the scene. And so that made me want to go to more events where, at the end someone is like, hey, I have this event happening next week, or I'm going to be hosting my own show, or I'm going to be the feature at a show. So I'm like pulling out my calendar like, yo, like these people a vibe. I want to be around. And before I knew it, more and more time went on where I'm like, yo, this is like becoming like a strong part of my life. And then once I got booked for my first paid show, I was like, oh, we're doing this. Because it feels good to get paid for something you enjoy. So I would definitely say it was a mixture between just meeting people where I could be myself and not have to overthink trying to be somebody else or trying to fit in. And then also just being able to see, there's other benefits of it, of being able to have people come and see me and be one of the headliners. So I think that's really what came about of making me be like, okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool to hear. And it's such a it's one of those things that makes me think. I always go, I don't know, I like to take things and just go with the big picture. That's just how my brain works. But
Yeah,
like when you talk about things like that, it makes me think about how these journeys work, where you find something that you just truly love and you enjoy, and how easy it can be to like pursue it, how big picture it is. Because sometimes you'll see it as like, oh, I do a thing, like, oh, I sing, I rap, I do poetry, I do etc., right? Whatever it is that you do in your life. But like, it's so much bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? Because when you find that something that you enjoy, one, it's not work. Like, it's work, but it's not work, you know? And
yeah,
then it just allows you to find those people who are, like you said, like-minded, and they can kind of understand you and feel where you're coming from. It almost like, where if you've ever grown up and you ever felt alone at any time in your life, like, oh, I feel like nobody understands me. That's something I would deal with a lot. Like, oh, people don't understand me. And it's not that people don't understand me. It was me not understanding myself to be able to understand what I liked, to be able
yes,
to put myself around the people that are gonna help me feel understood. And it's just,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I definitely agree with it. I feel the same way. I feel like a lot of times in different like ages and areas of life, I would feel out of place, and it was because I wasn't putting myself in a position to actually utilize my talent. And so now that I'm putting myself in a position of not worrying about, who in my close friend group doesn't relate to, the talents that I have, and being around those like-minded people, I'm realizing I feel like I'm overall happier as a person because I'm at a point of using my passion. And so when I pour into people, whether that be friends, family, whoever, I now have this passion that I'm pouring into as well. So it's like I'm investing into myself, but I'm also getting that return by being around like-minded people, doing what I enjoy, getting booked for different events. And so, like you mentioned, the whole being alone thing is like I felt alone because I wasn't being who I was really destined to be, but I was trying to figure it out. And it's like when you don't know who you're supposed to be or how important certain parts of your life are, you know, it's easy to just feel like alone or empty or sad because you're not walking in your purpose yet. But when you start putting yourself in a position to be on that right path, it's just lit from there. So I feel
Yeah,
like that's where I'm at now. Like last night I went and I was out networking. I was out way later than I intended. But like you mentioned, when you're doing stuff that doesn't feel like work, it's like I can stay out later because I'm actually enjoying myself. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it goes like that. I think this is what we were just talking about before we even started this, where it's just like, yeah, I took a vacation, and when I before vacation, it was just like, okay, I'm not gonna work at all. Like when I say I'm not gonna get on Facebook, I'm not getting on YouTube Studio, I'm not doing none of that. I'm not doing any of that, and it was fine and it was good because yeah, when you work a lot, like you need to take a break sometimes, but when I hop back into it, it's just like, okay, I got a little bit more work than I realized that I needed to do. Cool. But once you like, while I'm doing it and I'm staying up and it's late and I'm going to sleep at like 12 and I gotta wake up at 5. But like while I'm sitting here doing it, it's just like, well, at least I love what I do though. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It's nothing to drink an extra coffee tomorrow. And you know what I'm saying?
exactly. And keep going.
Yeah. But I'd rather be doing it on something that I love versus something that I don't like. you know?
Yeah.
It makes the time go by different. It
Because
makes
when
it,
you're doing, yeah, when you're doing what you love, like even when you're tired, you don't have that additional feeling of regret of being like, oh, I shouldn't have been doing XYZ. You're like, I'm sleepy, but you know what? That was worth it. So it like it balances out basically.
yeah. Yeah. So when did you realize that, doing poetry was like a part of your purpose?
I would say probably last August. Last August is when I had my first opportunity to headline a show, and it was just really dope seeing like so many family and friends come out to support me, and then just me figuring out how to like put a show together and all that different stuff. It was really exciting, and just hearing like the feedback of people telling me like, hey, you did a good job, we enjoyed it, or me just sharing parts of my story before some of the poems. So I don't know if you remember MTV Life and Rhymes, that show.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So like I kind of wanted to do it based off of that a little bit. And my favorite one was Kanye West. So it was like for some of the poems, I would give them like the backstory before jumping right into it. Because I wanted it to be not just an open mic, but feel like a journey where they understood more of who I am and could connect to me better as a person along with hearing the poems. And
Right.
so just just that feeling, that adrenaline rush of excitement, and then also hearing that feedback is when I think I really was like, okay, I'm locked into this. What's next?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really dope. That's really dope. And like honestly, like, oh my God, like one, when MTV Life and Rhymes was out, that was just a time to be alive,
It
especially.
was, man, I love that. Cause you like if you already like the artist, that's one thing, but to be more connected to them or let alone the music and have a deeper understanding of it is just dope. Cause now you feel like you're a part of that process.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gives you such a connection to it. Like, because I see art as a form of healing. Like any
Yeah,
type of art is a form of healing. And not only is it a form of healing for the creator, the person that creates the art, it could also be a form of healing for the people that receive the art or see the art or experience it. And you know what I'm saying? It's so amazing to see how, you know, certain things in life, which I mean goes back to purpose, right? The idea of purpose, because like when people have these paths and stuff like that, I love talking to people, and when people open up to you, they start telling their story, and you can
yeah,
hear it, and you be like, something good is gonna come out of this. Like I like, like it's just like I hear your story, I hear what you're saying, but something good is gonna come out of it. And I know it probably sounds crazy coming out of my mouth, but trust me, in time, something good is gonna come out of it. And that's how it goes sometimes, because with something like purpose, it's like you'll go through these experiences and they'll seem like whatever they are, they might be really great, really bad, whatever they are. And when you have a talent or a gift or something to pour it into, or something to give that to, and you pour it into that, it becomes something amazing, not only for you, but for everybody else around you.
yeah. It all starts to come full circle. So after that show, I definitely wanted to have a full circle moment because it's something about just knowing a person believes in you that gives you that extra motivation to keep going. And so I had this idea that I really wanted to bring to life. But you know how stuff goes, just like how we were talking about a minute ago. When you have something to do, life gets busy. We both had a busy day today before this. And
Yeah.
so I had this idea of being like, man, I got booked for my first show. I really should have a full circle moment and give someone who either goes up and mentions that they've never performed before or they don't really perform that's at the open mic, and give them a notebook and a pen, because that gave me that push when I was younger to keep going. But life got super busy. That was like a super crazy week, and I didn't have time to go to the store. And I was like so mad and beating myself up about it. Like, man, I really wanted to do this, but I'm either gonna have time to get ready or run to the store, and now I'm just ridiculously late to where people, the organizer looking at me like, girl, for real. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, let me just go home and get ready. And so it was crazy. One of my friends ended up calling me beforehand, and like when I'm like in a moment of feeling rushed, I get real irritated because like people know it's showtime. I don't got time to talk. What do you want? Yada yada yada. But he
Yeah.
actually was calling just to check in, see how I was doing, and whatnot. And so I was just like opening up to him about it. And he was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll pick it up for you. I was like, no, you don't have to do that. And he was like, I'm finna go to the store. I'll see you at the show. And so it was really dope that I got to have that full circle moment. And there was a girl that was there and she mentioned, like, hey, I write and I don't really, perform often. And so when I gifted that to her, she just literally started like tearing up. And I was like, oh my, like I didn't expect that reaction, but it was just such a beautiful moment of knowing like the woman who came to my class when I was younger to kind of ignite that spark in me, being able to like pass the torch almost. So that was really exciting to just be able to do that of, wanting to inspire somebody because I was inspired.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's so dope to hear. I love anytime that you hear stuff like that because those small moments can be so big to some people and we don't always realize it. So
Yeah.
that's really
And that's when this area started flooding a lot too. So she was like, I lost a lot of stuff. So I don't even have journals anymore. So I was like, it's just so crazy how life works because you never know, just a small idea you have can end up being something bigger.
absolutely, absolutely something that's small to you could be big to somebody else. That's
Yeah, but she had to basically just start all over. Most of her stuff got flooded out. And I'm like, I had no way of knowing. I'm thinking I'm just doing something simple. And she like, this means way more to me than you know, because I don't really have anything right now.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, yeah. I guess that's kind of like what I'm saying, where it's just like those things happen, and it's just like for all you know, that one little thing could have been that push, and that could be like the next generation's Maya Angelou. Like you
Yeah.
never know. Like you never know. Like that's so cool. That's so cool. So that's so cool. So like, what was your first performance like? Because you put on a show. I've seen it. It's not
Hmm.
just I get up here and I say a poem. It's a show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So has it always been that way, or has it been like a progression to it? And like, what goes into when you create it?
Gotcha. So it's been a pretty different range of stuff that I've done so far. So I've had, let me see, like three, I would say three major performances that I had to like actually like get a set list and like show prepared for. The rest has been like nonprofit or church events where I might come up and just do like one or two poems. But there's been like three major events where I had to like sit down and be like, okay, how are we gonna go about this? What are we gonna do? And so like one of the things I'll typically try to do is like if there's something big that's about to happen around that time of year, I'll try to tie that in. So, for instance, I got booked for a Mother's Day show. So I had wrote a poem for my mom, and then I had also wrote like a motivational poem for women. Or the show that I did in June, Father's Day, and then like Juneteenth was around the corner. So I did like a shout out to my dad because he was in the audience at the show, and I have like a motivational poem for Black people. So I did that because Juneteenth was around the corner. So I'll start with that, but it's really a whole process. I don't even really know how to explain the way my brain works, but it's like everything I do is strategic where I want one thing to flow into the next. And even if it doesn't have a smooth transition, I'm doing it for a reason. So a lot of times I'll do like just talking points too, just to like motivate people in the audience or try to have like some audience engagement to make sure they still connected with me. So I really, again, just try to take people on that journey. And I definitely think that Life in Rhymes played just like a huge imprint on me of basically like a template of if I were to be in the audience, what are things I would want to see? What are things that would make you say, I got my money's worth? And I think that's where my thought process goes is I don't want to just get up and read some stuff. I want people to say that was money well spent. I would see her again.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's the idea, right? You don't want to perform one time and then people don't come back.
Hey, I've seen some people get up there and act like they don't want to be booked no more. And I'd be in the audience like, did you know this was tonight? There's
Like
been a
what?
couple times I've seen people and they literally will have their phone out like, all right, what I'm finna perform. I'm like, if you don't know, I don't. It's crazy. And especially when you know a person's getting booked for it. So
Yeah.
I'll definitely take things that motivate me and then also things where I'm like, okay, here's something where I don't want my show to appear that way. So I'll kind of just take both those extremes and try to meet in the middle of being like, all right, let's be more organized than what just went on there. Because I'm that person where if I know I have a lot going on in life and I can't give my best self, I don't even want to do the show. And not that I don't want to do it, period, but I might let them know, like, hey, this isn't a good month for me. Like, I don't want to have do anything and my name be attached to it. So I would rather someone else have the opportunity if I'm able to have more time than to just take every opportunity to take somebody's money knowing like my heart's not in it at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so real. That's so real. It's almost like a level of integrity that comes with the art. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A love for what, when you love what you do, it shows and proves in a couple of different ways, actually. I don't really like, okay, I used to be a heavy smoker. And actually, when the podcast started, it was a smokers podcast in the beginning because
Gotcha.
that's how deep off I was into it, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that actually made me change in a sense was like one, my life was changing, like in general, but two, after so many times of actually like listening to yourself blank out in the middle of an episode, you get to reevaluating like, all right, you know what I'm saying, like, all right, if I
Yeah.
literally can't put the two brain cells together to actually form right now, and that
Yeah.
might be a problem if you actually trying to put on a podcast. So it would be stuff like, all right, let me not do that, let me show up as my best self right now because I want to and I need to, and it's not necessarily because somebody said something to me or because, you know, it was literally me critiquing myself and being like, all right, if this is what I'm doing, let me be serious about it. And, you know, do what I need to do. You know, say do what I need to do. Because ain't nobody gonna want to come back if you ain't got nothing to say. So
Yeah.
so you definitely want to put it together to be able to do that. And it's so interesting just how things work together like that. But I mean, again, like when it's purpose, you move a little different.
Yeah, and that self reflection goes a long way as well. I think not everyone realizes, wanting to be a better you and work on yourself. People notice that. People connect with that. People are inspired by that, even if they don't tell you. And so, you just following your dreams and setting goals for yourself and slowly, making a plan to achieve those, everything starts to fall in line because you're doing the work versus just showing up.
Yeah, yeah, because it's actually work that goes into it. You know what I'm saying? When you make that decision, like, oh, I want to be a better person, it's not something that happens overnight. There's a lot of things that you have to learn, like discipline and being able to give yourself grace when it's not going
Yes.
the way that you want to. It's so much that comes with it, and it's just understanding that it's a continual process. It's something that a friend of mine that was talking about because I just turned 30 anyway, but
Don't act like that's a bad thing, girl.
it's
30
not. It is. It's a great thing, you know. She did say when you put your head down, you know how old you are. But yeah, like but it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because it's just like now I'm at an age where it's just like when I was in my 20s, it would be like I'm trying to control life. And you can't some parts of life that you can't control. And it's just like now at this age, it's just like, all right, if I know I'm doing everything that I can, I'm gonna leave it there and be okay with that. Like if I'm doing
Yeah.
everything that's in my power, why am I gonna stress about something that I cannot change or control?
Yep. And it goes back to what you said about giving yourself grace. That's so important because we can be so hard on ourselves and our own expectations for ourselves. And we can't get everything done in a day. You got to break it up into smaller pieces. So, the best way to go about it.
That's the way to go about it. Absolutely.
Now, it would be nice to be able to just, handle everything at one time. You know that episode of SpongeBob where Patrick was just like vacuuming up the food?
Yeah.
And it's like we can't move like that. You got to take it one little bite at a time. Like you can't just knock everything out all at once. You have to take your time, be patient, and then give yourself that grace to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you don't, then you'll end up looking like SpongeBob when he had that clam baby and he was
Yeah.
vacuuming, crying baby, dusting, mopping, and all of that at the same
Looking
time.
crazy. We do not have all them arms to get all that done. Some of it got to wait until tomorrow, the next week, etc., etc. Space it out. Don't stress yourself out because you still got to sleep at the end of the day. So you can't do everything. And then you still got to work. Like, adulting just comes with so many layers. It's crazy.
It is like it is, and it's understanding like everything is like a part of a bigger process that's working together for your highest good. Because it's just like, look, when you realize, all right, I can't do everything in a day. I'm gonna do what I can today, and then we got tomorrow, and then the next day, and the next day, and we gonna build on it because I'm old enough to understand this is not gonna happen overnight.
Hmm.
And when I thought it was gonna happen overnight, that's exactly what had me stressed out, worried, and crying, trying to change the future that I can't change.
Yep, can't even control it. So it's like take small strides, let it be, because all of those little small steps you take, you slowly going up the ladder.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you create poetry, when you write poems, like is it something that you intentionally sit and do? Is it something that just comes to you? And like what inspires your poetry?
So, there's like so many different answers to that.
No, right?
Sometimes it'll just come to me. And I feel like when that happens, it never comes to me at like a good time. Like I'm
Mhm.
always in the middle of something, like I'll have the light off, I'm laying down, I'm ready to go to sleep, and then like something will come up out of nowhere. I'm in the middle of taking a shower. Now I gotta reach out, drive my hands, grab my phone, type it up to myself real quick. Like stuff will come at the most random time. I can be in the middle of I'm on the highway headed to work and someone will come to me. So it's crazy, but at the same time, it's like if you don't stop and either make yourself remember what it was or write it down or type it in your phone, it'll be gone. So it's like I'll have to find a way to, make sure that I have access to something to keep it later, or I'll, how we'll always have like mental notes, quote unquote, like, oh, I'll just keep it in my head. And then that's always the moment where somebody stop and talk to you or something, and you're like, dang, I forgot what it was. And you know it was fire, but you can't remember. But there will also be times where I'll sit and, attempt to write some intentionally. And I think sometimes when I'll just journal and just free write, stuff comes to me easier than when I intentionally try to sit down and write a poem, because I feel like sometimes when I have the thought process of okay, I'm about to write something, I'll put so much pressure on myself because I'm already going into it thinking, how can I make this better than the last thing I wrote? And sometimes I'll get writer's block because I'm trying so hard to make it the best thing ever that I'm not just writing and letting it happen. However, I do have quite a few breakup poems. And when I'm angry, oh, those come so easy.
Yeah,
Those come like I definitely feel like most of those I wrote in one sitting because it was like, okay, here's everything that I feel about you. And it was just a one and done of like, oh yeah, that's the money right there. So it kind of varies depending on the situation and like what I'm talking about, where I'm at in life. And of course, there's other like external factors as well. If I have a lot going on and my brain is already cluttered, then I can't really focus on writing. So it's a toss up of how it goes. But there will also be times where I'll just try to like set the tone to write something where I might just go to like Starbucks, give me some coffee, have a journal, put on like some relaxing instrumentals, and then just kind of see what comes to me. So it happens in different ways.
yeah, yeah. It gets like that. It gets like that sometimes too. Like because even when it comes to like the show, like I'll get ideas and like I'll jump up and be like, oh, and it'll be literally nothing that I can do about it. And it's just like, okay, so now what? And that's actually why like I always have like some form of like journal, like
Oh, that's a cute journal.
thank you, Five Below. Um
Yes.
but like I'll always have something close by because it's almost like that stuff hits you. And if you don't catch it,
It's gone.
it's out of there. It's out
Yeah.
of there. And like you said, it'll be like, man, that was good.
And it never comes back. Like it's not like a situation where a song pops up in your head and later on you're like, oh, I need to listen to that. You forget, and then the next day you're like, oh yeah, it comes to your head again. Once that idea is gone, it's just goes into like this random memory loss landfill or something, never to be seen or heard again. You're like, I really need that, but I don't even know what the what is anymore. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy how that goes on, how that happens that way. So one thing that I do want to ask too, because I remember this from the notes that you left me. You said that you
Okay.
like to inspire people. So when you write poetry, like, is that something that you keep in mind, or is that just like a personal thing? Like, do you think that's more of like in your everyday life?
I think that's more of like a personal thing that I try to do. So like on my poetry page on Facebook and then also on my website, I'll try to just add in like motivational stuff here and there just to keep people inspired because there's always so much craziness and nonsense going on in the world. So I try to like offset that, you know, in ways that I can. And sometimes I'll do like giveaways as well. So like for Mother's Day and Father's Day, I did a giveaway contest for people. And then I'll also do like, you know, just like motivational captions, quotes, put up like photos because I'm into like photography. I'm not a photographer, but I just like capturing those like beautiful or like unique moments if I'm out of town or even just local stuff in the area and just having like something cool or motivational text to go with it, as well as having like reels that I'll put up. So a lot of the ones on my page on Facebook are just like waterfalls or just like really relaxing stuff to help people like de-stress, like meditation type of stuff without the like talking through it portion, but just stuff where people can just kind of have that pick me up and just, you know, give them that motivation, encouragement to just have something to have a better day.
Huh. Okay. So you just like creating like a bunch of like motivational content and just creating things to make people just feel good and feel inspired.
Yeah.
I like that. I
So
like,
trying to like create like a safe space where like when people scroll, of course they gonna see flyers mixed in, but also be able to have something to be like, okay, I needed that. So that's really the ideal there is to just have like a one-stop shop where it's like, hey, if you're trying to get out the house, here's what I got going on. But also like if you're having a day where you just need to pick me up, like hey, this is a good place for you to be able to just read up on stuff or just watch those different videos of being able to just see views of the ocean or just waterfalls, different things like that to be able to just be like, okay, I'm all right. My day is gonna be okay.
that's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. So like what ways do you use? Like what are some strategies that you use? Like what are your pick me ups? What are your ways to like what are your getaways? What are your escapes? What makes you feel good?
For me, I really like going for like walks. I feel like that's really relaxing, or like sometimes jogs as well. It just kind of depends on the mood for the day. Since I just recently started a new job, I haven't had any time off built up yet, but I really love traveling too. I think that is one of the best ways to just really, you know, get rejuvenated and just get your mind together, clear your thoughts. I want to say maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I came to this realization of just being like, there's so many things in the world and opportunities I've missed out on trying to wait around on other people, waiting around on their schedule, whether or not they feel like it, if they had a good or bad day. And so I don't remember what birthday it was, but I randomly was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a solo trip. And so for my birthday, I went to Louisville, Kentucky, and I literally had the time of my life. I could do as much or as little as I wanted. I could go eat wherever I wanted. I didn't have to compromise with anybody. And not that that's an issue, but it literally was about me. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you're a person where you want to make sure everybody else is okay, you feel selfish when you do stuff for yourself. So to have a trip where I was away from everybody and everything I knew, be able to see new scenery, try new food, and just do stuff that was revolved around myself, I came back just feeling like just anew, you know. And from there I just started going to more places. So traveling is really big for me because I feel like it allows you to have a deeper connection with yourself, understand who you are, what you like, what you don't like, but it also builds up a confidence of saying, if I can have fun by myself, I really can get out in the world and live. I don't have to wait on anybody. And again, a lot of times I think there are moments and opportunities and things we miss out on because we feel like, well, my friend has to be there with me. But if this means a lot to you, you should still go to that concert, or you should still go to the wine tasting event or whatever it is. Yeah, you'll have to deal with those thoughts of like, I look lonely, but you won't be at home with your feet kicked up like, I wonder if I would have had fun. So those are two of the main things for me, along with like music or just going to the movie. So just really finding different ways to just do things for myself.
Okay, cool. That's what's up. That's what's up. You actually said something that I want to tap into a little bit, if
Okay.
you don't mind, because when it comes, the word that popped in my head, where it's just like, you know, putting, essentially like putting people above yourself, wanting to make everybody happy. Like the word that's coming to my head is people pleasing. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's just like, um when you have that kind of personality, it's almost like a process that happens when you finally get to a point where you start choosing yourself. And
Yeah.
like I want to kind of just like dig into it just a little
Okay.
bit and kind of like explain it, like talk to people about it. Cause like one thing that I like to stress here is that it's okay to choose yourself. You know
Definitely.
what I mean? And like when you're the type of person that likes to make everybody else happy, it's almost like a guilt that can come with it. Like, you know, I want people there with me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause for me, like my version is just like I want people to come along the way with me, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm growing, I'm healing, I'm changing, like I want you to come too, because I see where we can go. But you know, one of the hardest things for me to understand is that everybody is not meant to go,
Yeah.
you know, and like in order for you to live life, you kind of gotta have to let some things go, have to let some people go, have to say no to some things, have to put yourself outside of the comfort zone and do things like that. So like what are your thoughts on that and like getting out of it, like people pleasing and like learning how to choose yourself? Like what advice do you have for people that are dealing with that kind of thing?
I think the more time you spend where you're not in a position to have to compromise your wants and needs, it makes it easier to have more of a backbone and more boundaries because you stop going with the flow as much. I feel like when I was younger, I was always known as like that friend that just goes with the flow, where it got to a point where people were so sure that they knew I was cool with everything, they would just stop asking me for stuff. So, for instance, like trying to think of an example. Like if okay, so say for instance, like me and you, we hanging out, we got plans to go somewhere. This when we like in high school, neither one of us have a license. And because I was so much the go with the flow friend on such a deep level, you might have a friend that I'm cordial with, but I'm not cool with like that. And because I was always like go with the flow and one of my parents was picking us up, you'd be like, oh, I'll just tell Rachel that we need to pick this person up when we get to my house because their thought process was like, oh, she don't mind. She not going to say no. And as I started to come into my own and learn more about me, I stopped doing that as much because it's like I was able to realize here are things I like, here are things I don't like, here are things that fall in the middle, here are things that are just red flags where it's like absolutely not. But you have to be in tune with yourself to be able to identify those things. And if you're a person where you're always focused on other people and making sure they're happy, if you're always in everybody's face, you can't really be able to say, like, this isn't who I am, this isn't something I enjoy, because you're so used to just doing what majority of everyone else is doing versus being able to, go out, try something and be like, I didn't enjoy that. So then when it comes to a group setting, you can say, no, I really don't want to go to an oyster bar. I don't even like oysters. Can we get pizza? Versus being like, yeah, that's cool. And now you done spend $50 on food you don't like, and you still hungry, but everybody else happy. So it's just little things like that of just investing into yourself that you start to see the profit and you become happier because you're doing what makes you happy versus everybody else. Yeah, you'll still have to compromise, but you're staying true to yourself more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's so important to get to know yourself. It's almost like you can't really do anything until you know yourself. You can't really do anything authentically until you
Yeah,
know yourself, because otherwise you just kind of like really going through the motions, right? Like when
yeah,
I remember it was so crazy from one of my friends. We ain't even cool like that no more. But for one of my friends' birthdays, in the past, he wanted to go to a strip club. Wanted to go to a strip club. Now, I'm not that type of person. Like,
yeah,
I'm not. I never really have been, because like I would be the type of person to be like going to the strip club. Like, why? Like, Why?
Yeah.
I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I'm not judging, but it just does nothing for
It
me.
wasn't your thing.
Yeah, it does nothing for me. And it's just like I've only been twice in my life, and it's just like the two times that I went is both times I'm sitting there like I don't belong here. Like
Yeah.
I
Like
don't.
you're there because you're with friends, but it wasn't something that you would just wake up on a Friday and be like, here's what I want to do tonight.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Just give my money away for something I'm not really entertained by. Like
Yeah.
I is and once I remember coming home the last time because I was significantly older than the first time, and I'm going home and I was just like, I could have been with my dog. Like I,
Yeah.
I didn't have to be here right now. You know what I'm saying? And after
Yeah.
you do a couple things like that and you start and but the reason why I could say that the second time and not the first time was because I had spent time getting to know myself, and I'm going home like I didn't enjoy that. I did not enjoy that. I could have missed that. You know what I'm saying? And I think when you had that like fear of missing out, well, I need to go because like what am I missing? Like these people need me there, whatever. It's just like they're all right. It's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to say yes to everything or everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to say no to some things. Like if you ain't feeling it, it's okay to not feel it, you know? But also at the same time, making those people happy are what's keeping you from the people and the things that actually get you and what you enjoy, so you can have those real life experiences. You know what I'm saying? Like one more thing is just like when I moved to see before I moved to Texas, I was a little ratchet baby. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little ratchet
Ain't
baby.
nothing wrong with ratchet.
I mean, I'm from St. Louis, of course I'm a little rich
Ain't nothing wrong with rat. Is this how we get along?
baby, baby, yeah. But you know what I'm saying? I'm a little ratchet baby. So, like some parts of myself I would suppress. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, the ratchet baby is a part of me, but there are several other parts of me as well.
Yeah.
And like, I would just do things to appease my friends, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like the music I would listen to, I wouldn't tell them all the music I would listen to. I would just listen to the music that I knew they liked that I also like and stuff like that. So once I moved to Texas, I started making some different types of friends, and I found myself doing things like I remember I went to a Tyler the Creator concert and I was just like, I don't even know none of his music. And then I wound up falling in love with his catalog, not just the album, the
Yeah.
catalog.
You went to the beginning. Like, hold on, y'all on to something.
Yeah, and you know what I'm saying? But it took me stepping outside that box and meeting some new people. And it's just like, people that I vibe differently with, better with, you know what I'm saying? And they didn't make me feel like I had to suppress parts of myself. But again, you gotta get to know yourself.
Yeah. And when you first cross over into that, it's like super exciting, but yet almost scary of realizing like, man, I'm so used to going with the flow, but I'm connecting to people on a level I didn't even know I could. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you you start off sticking to what you know of like, okay, these are people I connect with, these are my friends. Let me just kind of stick to what is comfortable. But then you start branching out to a whole new world and you like, wait a second. I didn't even know this exists. I didn't even know I could bond with people. And it's always a great feeling when you can just really let your hair down and be 100% you without hiding parts of yourself. And people still enjoy that. Like, you don't have to try to blend in or switch up or change. You can be like, yo, this is who I am. Or you start getting to that point of like the stuff you don't normally talk about, just throwing it out there, seeing what happens. And they're like, I'm into that too. Wait a second. That's a dope feeling.
Yeah, it's a super dope feeling. And you know what I'm saying? And it's possible. Like I always like bringing these things up to show people like, yeah, it's totally possible to have this kind of thing. Like you might have to make some sacrifices along the way because like you said, it is scary because you got to let some things go. Like I had to let a lot of people go to get to this place where I'm at now. But now that I'm here, you know what I'm saying? I get to do things that I enjoy, you know what I'm saying, with people I enjoy. Like I get to talk to people like you, where like after a couple conversations, so I'm talking to you more. Like, what's your number? Like, you know what I'm saying? Stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's just like, and that's being your full self, and even with this whole thing, because I think we met in God's business plan, right?
Yeah.
even that concept where it's just like so many people who are peers of ours, might not have ever met each other a day in our lives, but you know what I'm saying? It's just people in a group that do so many different things, but can still connect and support each other in different ways. But, if you were still in the box, you wouldn't have it.
And then that all ties back into, what we were talking about earlier about just walking in your purpose and doing, what you were designed to do. Life puts you in a position where it starts opening those doors for you to meet people that you're connected to on a deeper level, because now you're surrounding yourself with people who will understand you better versus hiding those parts of yourselves, being too busy thinking about like how are other people going to perceive it versus being like, you know what, this is who I am. And
Yeah.
then stuff in your life starts changing and you're like, wait a minute, I should have been doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you always just been, because you seem pretty authentic to me, I'd say so. So have you always been this authentic, or has it all just been a process?
It's definitely been a process. So, going back to with me writing, like me being open with people and just like sharing parts of who I am, let alone like performing in front of people, was not something that I would do. I was like super shy, would not talk to people. Like, so it's been a full journey. And it's funny when I meet people like through what I do now, and then I'll tell them stuff like that, they'll look at me and be like, what? Like, because they'll see like how confident I seem on stage and all this other stuff and just assume I'm just flat out a people person. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, not that I just hate people, but it's like life was not always like this. If I were to go up to my younger self and be like, hey, you know how, you were taught not to share your feelings and not to express yourself and all this other stuff. One day you're gonna talk about stuff that makes you happy, sad, mad, angry, and then you're gonna share it with people on stage. I would have been like, nah, you got the wrong person. Because that just wasn't me. But it's been such a process of me unlearning things that I used to think were normal and realizing it's not. There's nothing wrong with expressing yourself, sharing your feelings, because, like you said earlier, journaling, all that stuff is therapeutic. But I grew up with parents where their parents weren't big on communication and all that stuff. And so they were, of course, going to teach, yeah, they were, of course, going to teach me stuff that was taught to them. But I had to get to a point of realizing more about myself and then eventually going to therapy and starting to unlearn all of those generational behaviors, because that wasn't healthy for me, of just keeping all of that stuff inside and just wondering why I'm feeling sad and all these other negative emotions all the time, because I'm carrying around anger and resentment and grudges from 5 years ago. So of course you're going to be tired and have insomnia and all these other problems that I used to have that I don't have to deal with as much anymore because I wasn't properly letting things go. Of course, writing is therapeutic, but if I go a month without writing, I'm not verbally telling people, hey, even though you're my friend, you did this, that, and the third, and that hurt me. Or, hey, this happened that this person did, and that really made me angry. I wasn't sharing those things with people. I just kept it all in my head. So I go to sleep, well, I'll lay down at night wondering why I can't sleep. I'm carrying a bunch of stuff around and it's just building up day by day. So it has been such a long process, but I'm so happy just looking back, knowing who I used to be, seeing how far I've came, how therapy has assisted me with, I still overthink at times, but I'm able to share things with people more quickly without just assuming everybody's out to get me, because it's beneficial for me to share those parts of myself, because that also allows me to connect with other people. I used to be the person where everyone would share all their problems with, but then I would feel like alone at times or disconnected from people because they didn't know who I was, but they knew like, oh, well, Rachel can basically be my therapist. She's the go-to friend. But you carrying around everybody else's problems and your own, it gets exhausting. So it definitely has not always been this way. It's been a long journey, but I feel like this journey will continue taking me, to places I didn't think I could go. So like I said, if I were to tell my younger self I'd be doing this stuff, I would be looking like, no, it must be a different Rachel. It's a pretty common name.
That's so real though. That's so real though. See, now that you explain that, see, that's why we get each other right there. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it right there. Cause cause it's such a real thing. It's such a real thing. A lot of the times we grow up, in especially in the Black community, where it's just like we don't talk about feelings, we don't talk about what's
Yeah,
going on.
because
You
it makes you weak.
Exactly. It makes you weak. We're very proud people, So, and the thing that I had to unlearn is just like I had to stop looking at it as weak and realize that it's a different level of strength. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? A lot of the things that we have negative perceptions about are actually the opposite. It's like mirror
Hmm.
work. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
the opposite. Like you think it's weak to talk about feelings, but in reality, do you know how hard it is to talk about feelings? To be
Exactly.
able to get to a place where you can't openly talk about your feelings because you're at a point where you can understand like these are my feelings and they are what they are.
Yeah.
And
And it's such a journey unlearning all that stuff because, sounds like we had similar backgrounds of how we grew up and things we were told. But by saying that it's weak to share feelings and things like that, you just mentioned it and you just said it, that's actually a strength. Because by not sharing those things, you're really in denial, and that's taking the easy way out by pretending everything's okay and it's not.
say it, say it. You hit me in my stomach. Say
Oh
it.
no. Yeah, it's definitely harder to be able to open up and express yourself and say, hey, you may or may not agree with me, but here's how I'm feeling. So by being able to say, this is how I feel, this is something that, I'm sad about, that hurt me, etc. That's a strength by knowing yourself well enough to vocalize, this is what's going on with me, and I'm gonna do something about it or express it to you or whatever needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't go to therapy for so many years for a couple reasons. Like I probably knew I needed to go to therapy for some years because I would get into moods and I would be like, is there something wrong with me? And just be
Yeah.
wondering, it's just like,
And you probably don't even know why you in the mood. You're just in one.
yeah, yeah. Actually, one of the reasons why my therapist had me start journaling was because she would ask me questions about my childhood because they do the thing where they try to
Yeah.
understand you. They try to talk about past experience like, "Well, what made you feel that way?" And I'd be like, "Miss Monica, I don't know." Because it's just like I
Like, how
don't.
would you find out?
Yeah, because I had got real good at disassociating from my feelings. Like I literally had to go through and like relearn emotions because I
Yeah,
had got so good at suppressing them. You know what I'm saying? And that's real life denial. Like you said, like that's real life denial. Like if you can sit and be like, I don't even know why I'm feeling this way, but I feel this way. And to get to
yeah,
a point where it's just like, mad because this happened and then being able to let it pass and I don't have to throw a temper tantrum. I don't have to do any of these old things that I used to do because I can be like, all right, this is what I'm feeling, this is why I'm feeling it, and I don't have to react, I don't have to do anything, I can just acknowledge what it is that I'm feeling and move on with my life. Strength.
yeah.
That's a strength.
Exactly. Because with that, you have to learn how to process and what's the best way for you to deal with stuff with, like you said, not having to throw temper tantrums, finding a healthy way to deal with things that bother you. Because when you get to a point where you start going to therapy, or for other people, whatever they might do to realize there's certain things that they need to change about themselves, it's so much to unpack when you have suppressed so many things for years. Like, it's so much to undo, unlearn, retrain your brain. It's an entire journey that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, time and effort, but it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, and worth it too.
Absolutely worth it, absolutely worth it, because you know what I'm saying, like again, flipping out those things on the head, like it seems hard to go talk to somebody, to find help, to do all of these things, but in reality it's simple, but we overthink it and make it hard
Yeah.
because we worry about go ahead.
Yeah, and then especially in the Black community, because it's seen as such a negative thing of just going to somebody and getting help, when in actuality it's a lot of people that need it, but that stigma just ruins it, where people will know they need the assistance, and instead of working on themselves, they just dump their problems on the next person or expect their family and friends to just fix them. And it's like you have to do that from within. Nobody can do it for you. People can make you feel better or, be there for you. But if you're still carrying around the same problems, it's only so much pouring a person can do into you until you have to get to a point of realizing there's a hole in my cup. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? These people doing all of this stuff for me and it's never good enough. There's an issue here.
yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And being able to, one, just having that self-actualization to be able to realize something like that, even that is a big step,
Yeah.
to have that level of self-reflection, because some people walk around and they just aren't even aware, that
Yeah.
it's that way, because, to an extent, some of these things are generational curses in a sense,
Yeah.
where it's just like you don't even know because this is the norm. This is the norm. Like again, like I said, the reason, like, one, I thought it was a lot of things wrong with me when I wasn't going to therapy, but two, I was afraid of judgment, because
Yeah.
it's like, this is my family, don't do that. We don't do
Yeah.
that. We don't talk about feelings. We don't, whatever. Like, we supposed to give it to God. And like,
Girl, I'm about to slide down the wall because it took me a minute before I even felt comfortable admitting and telling, like my parents, especially, that I was going to therapy because I was like, I don't know how they gonna take this. They gonna assume that I lost my way. And one day I was like, forget it. Like I'm feeling good. I'm learning great skills. And I don't remember how I brought it up in conversation, but I remember I told my mom first, and her immediate response was like, oh, you need to just pray about stuff. I do, and I still have the problems, and that doesn't mean that I don't believe in God and I don't believe prayer works. But I needed additional help with
yeah,
people that He gave this, skill set to be able to help me. And when I started telling her all the different things that it did for me, like, she kind of started to like chill out a little bit and be like, oh, okay, well, if it's helping her, but it just sucks that it's like you almost have to plead your case on like, I want to be a better person, but don't down me for wanting to do that. So I just really wish it was more normalized in the Black community. But yeah, I definitely was like, oh, let me not tell anybody. And then I think maybe after like a couple months, I was like, here's what I've been up to. But I
yeah,
feel in the back of my head was like, they gonna think I'm a heathen. They gonna think I just lost my little way.
yeah, yeah. And I remember, I hope my dad don't kill me for saying this, but he would say this because I was the same way. I actually told my mom before I told my dad, because when it came to
Yeah,
telling
because
my
it just
dad,
feels
it's just like,
easier.
I ain't doing this with you today. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And like, I remember, because I would actually come to my parents' house and do therapy so they could watch my dog, because otherwise she'd be like all up on me.
all up on
And
you.
like, I come downstairs and he'd be like, what she help you with today? Like, what y'all talk about today? Almost like he's curious, but at the same time joking with me, like, what are you going
Yeah,
to
like
therapy
what is
for?
this for?
Yeah, but it's just like, I'm getting coping skills here, like,
Exactly.
like I'm getting some things, and after a couple months, to see, actually it's been like 2 years since I don't actually still actively go to therapy, but I got my therapist on retainer. um
Exactly.
exactly, but like, what I'm saying, like, it's been 2 years since I did that, and like, the progress in my life is clear. Like, it's undeniable. It's just undeniable. And it almost feels like, to an extent, me taking that step is having a trickle effect in my own family and the people around me, because they can see, like, I can articulate. It's just like, well, you asking a question of what me and my therapist talked about today. Let me tell you, and let me tell you how it's helping me. And then when you see my life improving, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes I can say things and they'll be like, all right, that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And they might not necessarily say it, but you see them making like little changes here and there because something that you said makes sense or something clicks. And it's just like, now you get to heal more than just yourself.
Yeah, because people start to see that light in you brighten, and now they are able to connect with you in a better way, and they're realizing something about you is different, and you're able to just share more of yourself because of the skills and things that you learn in that process.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And like, sometimes it just takes someone to step out of that box and try something different. Like, once you get that self awareness, like, okay, something's not right here.
Yeah.
Getting self-awareness, figuring out, okay, now something's not right. What can I do about it? Taking those steps to do it. And before you know it, you could very well be walking in your purpose, with your soul tribe around you, making you feel understood and supported and everything like that, being inspirations to other people, and you know what I'm saying, healing the people around you, and then just being a light in the world. Like your whole existence literally could change by just
Yeah.
acknowledging something's not right here.
Yeah, all that stuff is connected, but it all starts with yourself. It all starts with being able to introspect, but also being able to look at the future and think about, what type of person do I want to be? Where do I see myself? But then coming backwards a little bit and saying, what do I need to do before I can get there? And I think a lot of times people will have a good thought process of saying, like, oh, I want my future to look like this. I want to be a CEO, blah, 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 but then they want to start at the CEO position. No, we need to actually take some steps and think about how can we get to where we want to be. And I think sometimes when you're able to think about that, or even able to ask yourself, like, am I okay or am I not okay right now? That can be the starting point of, getting there. So a lot of times people want to skip steps, but those steps might not directly lead you to where you want to go, but it puts you in the right position where you slowly work on yourself, you get connected to new people and opportunities. It all works together.
Yes, yes, you know what I'm saying. A reason why we call our compilations trust the process is because a big part of the journey is understanding that it's all a process. And that takes us back to what we said earlier, even in this episode, where it's just like one day at a time. One
Yeah,
day at a time, one step at a time. I used to get so frustrated, even in this process. And it's crazy because I was praying today. I pray a lot, talk to God a lot. So I was
yeah,
praying today, and I'm thanking God, one, for the progress, and the progress in the sense of I'm not expecting this overnight anymore.
yeah,
I'm past the point. Like I have learned to be content with the journey, which sounds simple, but to me it was hard. I don't know about you know, but learning to trust the journey was hard because
yeah,
I'm always trying to get to step two. Like I'm not trying to get to step two. I'm trying to get to step five from step
yeah,
one. You know, I'm trying to skip steps, and I would get so frustrated because it's just like, well, if I need to do this, like for instance, if I want to start this podcast, well, I need to get studio time. I got to get this. Like, how am I supposed to compete with all these other people out here? And it wasn't until I realized, one, you don't need to compete.
yeah.
There's nothing to compete with.
Only compete with yourself.
There's nothing to compete with. And two, like it's so many different ways to approach one thing. Just
Yeah,
find the one that works for you and take your time with it. Because if I'm stressed out about this, it's because I'm stressing out about things that I can't control where I'm not at yet, and not understanding that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to rush ahead to step 10 and I'm on step one.
yeah.
Like,
It can be so easy to try to rush and get to that end goal, but sometimes you have to stop and be like, dang, like rushing really, like, it seems like the best thing to do when you know exactly what you want, but then sometimes rushing messes stuff up more than taking your time. It gets in the way. It's kind of like how on That's So Raven, because she knew what would happen, she would make it happen and mess it up. So it's
yeah,
like sometimes life is like that, where it's like we try to rush and get to the goal, but sometimes we mess stuff up by making mistakes because we moving too fast and all this other stuff, versus just being like, you know what, let me just let life happen, let me just let stuff pan out the way it needs to and take my time. But it can definitely be hard to do that because we live in a world where everything is so fast paced. So you're like, oh, I have this idea, and 5 minutes later you're like, I need to have it. And you
yeah,
just have the thought, like you're so ready, but then sometimes you got to be like, no, it's not gonna happen that quickly. But with everything moving so fast around us, it can be hard to like sometimes calm ourselves down and be like, all right, realistically, it's gonna take X amount of time.
yeah, yeah, because to an extent, you don't have it for a reason. And that's what I was thanking God for. I was thanking God for having more sense than me, because I'm always trying to control things. And it's just like,
Yeah.
once you get from step 1 to 2 to 3, and you standing at 3 and looking at 1, you can look and be like, I can see why I didn't get to step 5 when I got to step 5, because I didn't know this that I know now. I didn't have this lesson or that experience or this or that. And I thank God for having more sense than me, because if I would have got what I wanted when I wanted it, I would have screwed it all up.
Yeah. And
So,
then waiting makes you appreciate stuff more too.
yeah, yeah, it makes you, cause I got humble. Like mine is humble in me, but I had a little bit of an ego. So like mine is just like, just go with the flow, because you think you know everything. Like again, like that's so Raven, you want to know everything, you want to get
Hmm.
to that step, and it's just like going about it the wrong way though, because you just don't know what you know yet.
Yep, messing stuff up in the process, all while trying to fix it. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Crazy. Standing
It's
in your own way.
yes, standing in your own way, don't even know you standing in your own way, and you refuse to move because you think
Yeah.
you got the answers. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. But like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your night. I just want to ask one more question, and this is kind of random given what we just finished talking about. But
Okay.
like, what would you say is like one of your favorite poems that you ever wrote,
Hmm.
and why?
My favorite.
I like it when I make people think.
I feel like I got two favorites right now. Like I
Okay.
feel like every chance I get, those are the first ones in my head where sometimes I gotta stop myself and be like, I feel like people just heard this.
Uh,
Um, but it's the one that you had commented on that I posted, those two. So
mm,
one is called Until You Love You, and then the other one is called Deception. It's funny
ooh,
because they're both about the same person, but definitely on completely different ends of the spectrum.
yeah,
So it's crazy how people can, inspire completely different things. But I think I really like did my thing with the metaphors and whatnot. And
yeah,
I have videos for both of them on TikTok. I'm trying to think which one was it that kind of like did better than I expected. The Until You Love You one, that one did numbers compared to like my other videos. But yeah, I would say those are my favorites because it has like that like 90s, early 2000s feel with like a lot of the like metaphors I threw out there where it takes people to their childhood and I can connect with them of just kind of taking them on this journey of like, oh, like she's spitting, but also I didn't expect her to bring up recess or I didn't expect her to bring up, all these different things. So I would
yeah.
say those two are definitely my favorites right now. Where if somebody were to be like, yo, like put up some of your best stuff and go spit at this open mic, it probably would be one of those two or both.
Okay, cool. And you are pretty slick with the metaphors. I like that.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
telling you, when it comes to them breakup ones, because Deception, oh, I had my pen and was like, you know what? We finna get this all out.
yeah, yeah. I know for me, when I'm feeling extra clever, I start using really big words and I start putting them together.
Because you got to make sure people know you're not playing.
Yeah.
You got to make sure.
Do you have a favorite bar, like off the top of your head? Like, what's a favorite bar that you've written?
Um, Actually, it's a couple of them that's coming to mind now. So this is the first one that came to mind. So it says, "You want to be a dog, but I'ma vet you. I'm on my Doctor Doolittle shit. I'm setting boundaries because you always do little shit." So that's like one of my favorites. It's a couple more, but that was the first one that popped up where I can be like, okay, I have a good starting point for
Yo,
this. But girl, I was mad when I wrote that, and I was like, I went back, read it, and was like, hold on, I just did something.
you
And I have
did.
another one that I'm working on. This poem isn't finished, but I'm working on doing a motivational poem for men. And I want to have like some Marvel metaphors like sprinkled in, and hopefully I don't mess this up because again, it's not finished, so I don't have it memorized or anything. But my favorite one out of that one from what I have so far is, "You made of Iron Man, you handle everything with ease. Even the largest dose of pepper couldn't make you sneeze." So that's my favorite one from that one where I was like, oh, I feel like I done did something because Pepper, but then also Pepper. So
Mm.
yeah, those are a couple favorites. I still need to, of course, like I said, finish that one. But those are the first two that just came to mind.
Okay, yeah. That first one made me, that I feel like we around the same age. Back in the
It is,
early, huh?
huh?
You say
I
what?
said it is.
Okay. Okay, bet. So you gonna get me. You know the dude that would rap on YouTube and the raps would not be that good, but everybody would
Ice
the dude would
JJ Fish,
rap. I no, not him. Not him.
50 Tyson.
No, he would be his the dude with the glasses that would stand in the crowd and his bars would be like,
Oh,
I
Deshaun
see,
Raw.
I think so.
Was it him? The one where he'd be like, but I'm not a rapper. Him?
Yeah, and everybody and he would
I
fall out.
used to love it. Yes, I used to love his videos.
Yo, after the first one, I wanted to fall out and do that, but I'm not trying to holler
I'm
on it.
weak.
Right?
They would be so dramatic. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm like, you are so extra. It was one video where his friend got right in the camera and was just like, as
yeah.
if he did like the best thing ever. I had to knock my earring out. They were so freaking dramatic, but it made the video so funny. And he
Yeah.
would just be like so cocky, and it's like, dog, but I'm
Yeah,
not a rapper.
exactly. I see, she tried to spite me.
Then
Oh, like it would be like what? Like what?
he'd come out of nowhere with props. I'm like, sir, where did you just get a whole plate from? Like, his videos used to be so fun. I wonder what he's up to. It's always crazy how people can just be like these huge sensations and then they just like we just stop hearing from them.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that happens though. I think some people go just live their life with their money and just like
Yeah,
let me run.
I don't blame them
I don't either.
because
I
I
feel
feel like I wouldn't want to be like famous to the point where I can't do simple stuff like go in Walmart. Like, feel like making a certain amount of money is cool, but I would want to be able to just do regular stuff. Like, why are so many people around me at the post office? I just wanted some stamps. Like, I don't want to do all this. Like, I want to just do regular stuff.
yeah, yeah, because like in real life, like what's so funny, I remember I was talking to one of my coworkers and it was the type of work I do, and I was just like, yo, dude, I need you to get straight to the point because I don't like talking. He was like, you do an entire podcast. How do you not like talking? I said, yo, Phil, I
That's
don't
different.
like talking.
That's different. Because work, that's a different type of talk. That ain't the podcast. The podcast is your passion. So it's like, I definitely get that. The same way, like, I feel like sometimes people will expect you to like if you're into something, they expect you to want to do that every single day. So with me, I'll have like events I'm going to, networking and stuff like that, and then I might have a day where I'm like, okay, I might have did 4 different events this week, and then went to the gym and everything else. And then my friends might be like, hey, what are you doing Friday? And I might already have the thought process of like, I'm not doing anything that day. I'm exhausted. But their thought process is like, we haven't done anything all week. So if you off work at this time, we finna go here. I'm like, whoa, you don't just make decisions for me. I love y'all, but I also need a break. So it's like sometimes people don't get it. They like, okay, well, she was outside Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. She outside too. I'm tired. I need a break. I'm tired. So it's
Yeah,
like sometimes people don't get it. They see you doing something. They're like, oh, she just want to keep going. Kind of want to rest. Don't want to do all that.
exactly, exactly, exactly. Because I mean, and again, going back to the idea of purpose, right? It's levels to purpose. Purpose isn't just one thing, right? Purpose isn't one thing. You could be that. I mean, I think that's the same way how, like, say, for instance, if you see like an actor or artist or whatever, it's just like, okay, Will Smith was a rapper, an actor, a comedian. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like
Everything.
all these things because, and you know what I'm saying, at the same time, like a father, a husband, and whatever else he is.
That's a
So
lot.
exactly, you know what I'm saying? So when you see things, it's levels to purpose, you know what I'm saying? Like you could be doing one thing, but you also got this, that, and the other, and the other. And I think that's what makes purpose is so cool, right? Because it's not all tied up in one thing. You could go Like I could go write one day, do the podcast the next day. I could be editing. I could be hanging out with my friends. Like sometimes I just need to be a good daughter or a good friend or whatever. It doesn't always have to be like get on the camera and talk. I don't want to get on the camera and talk every day. Part
Yeah.
of me feel shy. Like I don't want to do this all the time, and I don't have to do this all the time. I get to just go with the flow and what I'm feeling in that moment and enjoy life. And I think that's like the funnest part of life once you hit this
Yeah.
level of like freedom.
Yeah, you're doing what makes you happy, but you also get to feel free. And there's such a beauty in that because you have the full control over how much you do, how little you do, when you take breaks, etc., etc. Like it's literally you call the shots, but it's a part of you. So that's a beautiful thing to have in your life.
For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. And I think on that note, I think it's a good place to go ahead and wrap it up, man. I appreciated talking to you today. It's always fun when I talk to you. I enjoy it.
We be having so much to talk about. Like I feel like I've known you for so long. It's crazy.
I know, right? I know, right? But I feel like, yeah, as we get to know each other, I feel like we got a lot in common, low key. So
No, it really does sound like it. I'm like, we the same person. We've lived the same life.
it sounds like it. It does. It does. But I appreciate you coming on here and talking to me. Like I said, you're more than welcome to come back anytime. I would love to have you back
Yes, I
anytime.
would love to be back.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
This shouldn't even feel like an interview. Like we're literally just talking.
That's what I wanted to be. That's what I
You
want.
know, you didn't tell me to wear my Pac-Man shirt, but it's cool.
Oh, you got a Pac-Man shirt?
Not that exact one, but
Is Miss
we could have been
Pac-Man?
matching or whatnot. I see how it is. I see how it is.
We gonna coordinate next time. Next time we gonna get
Yeah,
cool.
it's lit.
Yeah, okay. What did the mean girl say? We wear pink on Wednesdays.
Oh my gosh. So remember, okay, so we were talking about like my birthday shoot the other day. So
Um,
like part of what I did was I bought a burn book off Amazon, and my theme was like one of the captions I had put up was like, here lies everything I'm like laying to rest for my 20s, because this was last year for my 30th birthday.
uh,
So you just made me think of that.
we we be on it. We be on
We
it.
here. We locked in. You
Yeah,
just
on
snuck me in.
yeah. All right. Do you want to let people know where to follow you on social media?
Yeah, so you can follow me at Instagram at caramel underscore 300. You can also follow me on Facebook, TikTok, as well as YouTube at my poet name, which is Eloquent Pearlfection. Eloquent, ELOQUENT, Perfection, literally the word pearl, and FECTION. Hopefully, y'all can spell pearl. If not, I got hooked on phonics. Hey,
Hey, it's all good. I'm gonna
y'all
put it
gotta
in.
find me. Tap in, stay locked in. I got lots of things coming up that I'm really excited about. Oh, and I will be guest hosting a show on August 4th. It is the Can I Get on the Mic open mic at Too Much Sauce in St. Louis. That is a Friday at 8 p.m.
Bet. You asked it for me. I was literally about to ask, was there anything you wanted to promote? I know you've been doing shows on shows on shows,
Yes, trying to be
appearances on a
looking busy out here.
yes, you know what I'm saying? But we gonna get you back on my calendar so you can be back here.
Exactly. We gonna have more to talk about. I
On
don't
me.
even want to get off right now.
Okay. Look, if I ain't have to get tomorrow's episode out, I might keep talking, okay? But we gonna see you at the expo too, right?
Huh?
We gonna see you at the expo too, right?
Yes, most definitely. And I should definitely have that male motivational poem ready by then so I can add more to the Iron Man bars and whatnot. So it's lit. I'm excited.
Okay. She about to drop hot fire like guideline. Okay.
Yes, because I spit hot fire.
Y'all, if y'all looking to follow me, you can find me at Marissa Y17 on Instagram, Marissa the Thinker on Facebook and YouTube, and then Thinker versus Speaker at Thinker versus Speaker on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I think that's everything. Y'all know I don't get on TikTok. Did you have anything for the people before we get out of here?
um, I would say to just, focus on learning yourself if you feel like you still don't know who you are. And as you figure out who you are and what you like, you have no clue where life might take you. You might end up on a journey that you didn't expect, but it might be one of the most amazing journeys that you've ever been on. So just allow yourself time to get out of your comfort zone. And that can be one of the greatest choices you ever make, is just trusting and taking a chance on you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do not be afraid to take that chance on you. It might actually be one of the best things that you've ever done for yourself.
Yeah, it might pay off. Literally, it might pay off.
Literally. Yeah, that's very true. My dad, I remember, Lord, so I had family in town for my birthday and I was sleeping on the couch.
Hmm.
Um, I was sleeping on the couch. My dad comes downstairs at 6 o'clock in the morning on the day of, no, this is right before my birthday. This is right before we go to town. That's why I was on the couch. And he said, see, the thing about what you're doing here, he was just like, the reason why people are successful sometimes, and I don't know if you realize it or not, is when people find something that they love, they do it. And, it's a difference between doing something to do it and doing something because you love it. And some of the most successful people are doing what they love because what they love doesn't feel like work. And they allow that to bring the money for them or to bring the success in for them. He didn't say money. He allows the love of what you do is what brings the success to you.
That
So
makes sense.
find something that you love and don't be afraid to do it. Even if it feels crazy, even if it feels outside your comfort zone, even if you looking at it like, I don't know how I'm gonna get there. Look, just start with step one, go one step at a time. And before you know it, you could be living in your full blown purpose, experiencing something you never imagined before.
That's very true. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I got all this from my daddy. I'm just his little mini running around the world.
Dads be on the stuff every now and then. Every now and then you be like, hold on, that was good.
Mhm.
But I feel like it always be like an unexpected moment where you don't even realize they finna throw something deep out there, and you be like, wait a minute, something's happening here.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Literally, this is the reason why this is conversational actually comes from my dad and my grandpa. My grandfather was a pastor and my dad is, I mean, essentially like me. He spent so much of his, like, one of his things raising us was to always talk to us and like get us to understand life, because he always says, when I'm gone, this is what you'll have, is these conversations. So, even if I tell you something that you don't necessarily like, these will be the things that stick with you. And when I was younger, I was so defiant because I felt like I knew everything and I didn't want to hear anything. And as I got older, I realized a lot of the things that he said actually had a lot to it. And they were really like impactful things that he was telling me. And that's what was like, damn, he was on to something the whole time.
Yeah,
He was on to something the whole time. And that's kind of like what inspired it, those talks that I would have with my dad. So that's why it's not like an interview, it's conversation. It's,
yeah. And
we
that's
get
how it should feel without, not having like all that pressure. It just flowing easily.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like I always felt like when you have like a conversation with someone, like a deep conversation with someone and you sitting there and you talking about life, you don't know what's gonna come up. And that's another reason why I don't really plan for the episodes like the way, and that's why I make an interview style, because when you have a conversation, it's so much more that can be gained that wasn't expected.
Yeah,
And that's why
because it's way more organic.
yeah, because you never know what's going to come up. If you're just going with the flow, you know what I'm saying? You'll probably get more than that than some staged question that I could ask you that somebody else has asked you over 1,000 times. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like that's more impactful to get the real, the authentic out. Other people can ask the interview stuff. I do
yeah. But that's you staying true to you. You know what I mean?
it. Yeah,
That's the best person to be.
yeah. It's the only person I know how to be.
Right. And the only person you should be.
Yeah.
Everybody else already taken, and that's what's going to continue to put you in a position to thrive, is because you're not trying to mirror your show based off what somebody else is doing. You're like, hey, this is my style, this is what feels right to me, this is what makes sense to me. And so because it has that authentic and organic feeling of what you want to do, and it being your show versus being like, oh, I look at this YouTuber all the time, I'm going to ask all the questions she asks. No, you doing what makes sense for you, and that's what's going to continue to help it to grow.
That razzle dazzle. That razzle dazzle.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm not even gonna add nothing to it. I'm gonna leave it on the high, just like that. And on that note, you know what I'm saying? I want to thank you again, Rachel, for joining me today. I appreciate the conversation. It was an amazing conversation. I feel inspired as I go to do more work.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this opportunity. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. No, anytime, anytime. Like I said, I'll be reaching out to you. I'll again love to have you back. Looking forward to
Yes.
having
And
you
then we
back.
can coordinate next time. Have matching shirts and whatnot. Be official out here.
Okay, yeah, okay. It's gonna be litty out here in these streets. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple other shirts. I'll show you my closet.
I got you.
All right, man. On that note, we're gonna go ahead and get up out of here. I hope y'all have a good day. Again, had an amazing time. Thank you. Yeah. Unless you got anything else, we can go ahead and hop up out of here.
Nope, that's all I got.
All right. Well, on that note, have a good night, y'all. I appreciate you.
Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.